Welcome to our public library. I'm not going to ruin the morning by attempting my Spanish. Only my daughters, who I sent to Spanish class, could do that better. But I want to at least say, hola. Welcome. We're here primarily because of Supervisor Scott Wiener. And he's been a champion for our working families. And I want to say thank you, Supervisor, for doing this and bringing us together. We're here at our San Francisco Main Library for the good reason that our librarian and all the wonderful friends and people that he serves through our public library process system has said that we need to have libraries that are connected to all of our communities. And this is one way that the library is connected. They are connected in so many other ways. But one way is to literally have a room dedicated to our Spanish-speaking families and people who want to make sure that they can learn the languages that are appropriate for here so they can better themselves and have their kids have places where they can go and emerge into other languages. And this is another example. It's an example just like our wonderful park system, of course our library system, our world-class school systems, where all of them are dedicated with a lot of support from our City Hall to make sure they're family-friendly and to make sure that we're servicing and building stronger families in San Francisco. You know, we've always been at the forefront of a lot of great programs and progress for our families and our workers because of the legislation like the one that Supervisor Wiener led and that his staff helped draft and create, and that got done for the benefit of all of the people here in our city. You know, we recently passed a similar piece of progressive, good legislation like increasing our minimum wage, the highest in the nation. We also wanted to make sure that not only did we do that here, but that we don't rob the talent and competition from other smaller towns. So Mayor Libby Schaff and I headed a statewide effort, and I'm glad the state listened and the governor was there to yet sign with the legislature another higher minimum wage for all working people in the state of California. And we know that we need to do more. We've accomplished great things together to ensure that our parents and our children, like those in the room here today, can succeed in this very expensive city to make sure that they have the resources and the ability to be successful. So after I sign this piece of legislation today, we'll be the first city in the United States to approve 6 full weeks, fully paid leave for new parents, for our mothers and for our fathers, and of course, for our same-sex couples. And I want to make sure that our city is ensuring that the bond between parents and their children, whether biological or adopted, grows strong from the very beginning and sets our children up for success. I want to say thank you again to the Commission on the Status of Women. Emily's here with friends of the Commission as well, because they've been lockstep in this legislation and advising the supervisor and making sure we did this right. And because of the value of the bond that I speak about between parent and child, I want to make sure that all growing families understand that we want to make this family leave fully paid policy one that they can really touch. And so we're going to be adding more resources to the Office of Labor Standards in order for them to fully enforce the Paid Parental Leave Ordinance as envisioned by this legislation. And as of yesterday, I was lucky to announce our new director of the Office of Labor Standards, and that's Patrick Mulligan, who will ensure that the families get the full benefit of this new law. And while we lead as much as we can in helping working families and helping families in general and helping parents, we also want to take the opportunity to thank my good friend, Governor Jerry Brown, because he is able to complement this law in a very similar way. As you may know, We've had a family leave policy in the state and in the city for quite some time, but it only paid about 55%, and then the rest would have to be done by the families. This legislation closes that gap, and again, thankful to Supervisor Wiener for doing this. But in addition, the governor and the legislature decided they would also increase the state's portion so that in a couple of years, the state will be covering about 60% of this family leave, and the rest of it, through a staggered process, will be covered by employers on a staggered basis, depending upon the number of employees that they have. These efforts provide the kind of basic security and support that should be available, quite frankly, to every family in the United States of America. We started right here, and I'm very proud that everything that we do here, everybody else watches, and maybe they copy, maybe they don't, but if they do, they know it's because we do it for the right reasons. Thank you, Supervisor Wiener. Thank you to all of the community members, to the parents, not only that are here, but the number of parents who engaged in the adoption of this legislation. And I also want to say thank you to companies who have already stepped forward and say, we can do that. We can make sure our employees are covered whenever there's a family leave that's necessitated. Companies like Byright, associations of businesses like the Bay Area Council, represented by Jim Wonderman, they are identifying business leaders who will put their hands up and say, we're going to take care of our workforce and support families in the city and the region. I'm very proud of everybody who's been working on this because, again, it helps our city say, yes, we can do things and we can implement them and we can embrace our families. At this moment, I'd like to introduce the author of this legislation. Someone's leading this conversation with us, and I'm sure he's been asked to speak on a number of different national stages, and rightfully so. Supervisor Scott Wiener.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Mr. Mayor, thank you for really making a big deal about this signing because this is a very big deal. The step that we're taking today in San Francisco to once again show the way for not just our state but our country about what it means to support working families, to truly support working families, what it really means to address income inequality and not just talk about it. And so, Mr. Mayor, thank you for doing this. There was an editorial this morning in the New York Times that I think beautifully encapsulated why this legislation is important. It didn't mention the legislation, but it didn't have to. And the editorial talked about how in California, we pay 55% wage replacement for parental bonding leave, going up to 60 or 70%, how New York State is starting at 50% and will escalate from there. But the editorial mentioned what we all know, that when you are lower income, when you're a working class family, it's not realistic to take a 50% or 40% or even a 30% pay cut. And in this country, we are forcing families to choose between bonding with a new child and putting food on the table. And no family should ever have to make that choice. We want new parents to spend time bonding with a child. We know, and it's not disputable, that families that have time to bond are healthier families, are more successful families. Parents are more successful. Workers are more productive. And children are healthier and have better educational achievement over time. We know this is true, so why is it that we as a country are one of just a handful around the world that don't actually put our money where our mouth is and value parental leave and encourage and support families in establishing these strong bonding relationships immediately after birth or adoption? And so what we're doing today is eliminating the need for that choice and telling families you can spend time forming a healthy, strong relationship with your child, and you can pay the bills, and we're going to support you in doing that. This legislation also, in line with California's approach, it helps us to start really tearing down some of the gender stereotypes around parenting, that both parents are responsible for rearing a child. It's not just about the mother staying home with the child, that the father should too, or both fathers or both mothers, that everyone has a role to play, and that also makes for healthier, stronger families when everyone develops a relationship with the child. And so I'm just so excited that we're moving forward today. And this is a growing national movement. We know that the president is committed to expanding family leave, that our leading Democratic candidates for president are committed to it, and I think we're moving in a good direction. I want to really just thank a few people and organizations for making this a reality. First and foremost, I want to thank in my office my legislative aide, Andres Power, who was actually on his first day of parental leave today, but came to celebrate with us. So welcome back, Andres. And actually, this legislation was Andres' idea. He came up with it when he was researching his own parental leave benefits, and what he saw was that as city workers, we get decent, pretty good, actually, parental leave benefits. But what he saw was that in the private sector, particularly lower paid working class workers, don't get those same benefits. And so he came to me, and we decided we were going to move forward and we were going to close that gap. So Andres, thank you. I also want to acknowledge some of our amazing partners in moving this legislation forward: Equal Rights Advocates, the Legal Aid Society, Employment Law Center, the Opportunity Institute, the California Work and Family Coalition, Planned Parenthood, which spontaneously endorsed the legislation. We didn't even talk to them about it. They just went ahead and did it. So thank you, Planned Parenthood. The Department on the Status of Women and Dr. Marase, the Youth Commission, and Adele is here with her beautiful child. The Bay Area Council for helping us work really through some of the issues with the business community, and Byright, which was doing this before they were required to do it. So this is a great day, and thank you very much, everyone.
The faster I sign this, the faster Andres will get reimbursed. All right. There you go.